Great moments are born in great opportunity.
This kid's gonna be the best kid in the world.
This is your client. Now go out there and take it.
That's how winning is done.
So, another week, another dollar. Hope all is well with you at YouTube. I've had 3 weeks off for Easter holiday, and yeah, it's been really good. Apart from everything that I've wanted to do over the Easter holiday, I haven't actually done. Just before we split up, I was like, yep, I'm going to get revision done, I'm going to get my to-do list up to date. You know, I had a massive image that, you know, my Easter holiday would be a little bit something like this. So the URM program consists of a finite sequence of instructions. I0, I1, I2 to IM, and yeah, I get this, yeah. Yeah. I see it, I'm happy with this, yep. If this came up on the exam, I'm on it like Sonic. However, in reality, my 3 weeks have been little more like this. It's funny because it's a cat. If cats on the internet came up in my exams, I'd be so chuffed. Like, I would ace the exam without a problem. But I highly doubt that's going to happen, and I really need to start revising. Because right now, I'm in this situation. What the hell is a URM? What the hell is a finite number? What the hell subject am I taking at university? On Saturday the 14th of April we saw the 2012 Grand National, and as you would have read and heard in the press, it was extremely eventful. So to quickly bring everyone up to date about what happened at the Grand National this year, one of the horses that was favourite to win was called Synchronised, and he had to be put to sleep on the course after he broke his leg. So the day after, sort of every news website and every newspaper had the photos of Synchronised plastered on their pages and on their websites, and when the rider fell off, photos of the rider, and people were quoted saying this, people were quoted saying that. One of my first thoughts was, you know, everyone's jumping on the wagon about this today. I started doing a little bit more digging, and I started to read, you know, more sort of news sources, and only sort of when I started reading a bit more around the subject that I started to realise that it wasn't just down to the fact that one of the favourite horses to win died. There was actually more to it before the race even started. What I'm saying in this video is what I've heard and what I've read in news sources, so if maybe something has changed or maybe you've heard a different story, please let me know, because you know, I'm only sort of making this vlog on what I've heard and what I've read myself. It was reported that Synchronised had thrown his rider off just before the race, and this caused a delay in the start. It was then said that eventually a vet managed to catch him and did check him over. However, that horse should never have run in the race, and it has also been reported that people were scared about the well-being, mentally and physically, and whether the horse was in the good and correct condition to actually take on the gruelling race. As Synchronised and his rider approached the first jump, one of the commentators said live on air, "I don't think he fancies it much." Surely I'm not the only one who thinks it's a bit weird that the horse didn't want to jump the first jump of the race. If it was towards the end or halfway through, I'd say different. But, you know, the first jump is probably the one they take at speed first, because that's when the adrenaline is, you know, really pumping in. I believe that the rider should have taken responsibility and pulled up Synchronised there and then. He should have pulled him up and said, look, he was going to refuse that jump. He clearly is not in the fit and correct state to take on this race. I can see it from the point of view that if I was a trainer of the horse and the rider pulled him up and said, yeah, he doesn't seem to be quite right, that you've probably spent a lot of money on the horse and given up a lot of time for the horse, and you know, it doesn't seem to be that good enough excuse to pull the horse up. I understand a lot of money is ploughed into these horses to get them at Grand National level, and I understand that there's a lot of money to be had when they succeed. But when they fail and are put to sleep on the course, it just puts everything into perspective that that rider should have taken the responsibility. Had he taken the responsibility and said, look, he was going to refuse that jump, he's not going to take on this race, that horse would have lived. Sadly, Synchronised wasn't the only horse that lost their lives at the Grand National this year. Another horse called According to Pete also had to be put down after he broke his shoulder. According to Pete's accident has been classed as a freak accident, that it could have happened to anyone at any time. And I do hold my hands up and say, yeah, that can be true, that your horse can go and gallop in a field and break its leg or break its shoulder if it falls down awkwardly. Yeah, it can happen to anyone. I fully accept that. What I don't accept is the fact that someone has come out and said, you go into the races and you don't expect to lose your horse. Well, surely that's something that you run through before in your what if this happens scenarios. Surely you've got to realise that there's a lot of horses in that race. There's a lot of adrenaline coursing through the bodies of horses and riders. And you are going at really, really high speeds. All that putting together is just a recipe for a fatal accident to happen. Personally, I'm surprised there are more accidents that happened at the Grand National. The RSPCA have called for an examination after their concerns of the high numbers of horses that race at the Grand National and the difficulty of some of the jumps. Now, I know for a fact the course has been analysed and examined, and a lot of money has gone into sort of making it safer per se. And I'm pretty sure that the jumps have been made smaller. Now, a lot of the trainers have come out and said that that was a bad move. The whole point of having big jumps was the fact that it would slow the horse down and make it a little bit easier and a little bit safer for the jockeys to get over there with their horse in some sort of controlled manner. And I can see the point in that, in that, yeah, it probably would work. However, I don't really see how much of a difference it would make. Because these horses are really pumped up on adrenaline and are really hyped up that they're riding and galloping with 29 other horses or whatever, that surely if they're that pumped on adrenaline, like they are, they'll just jump anything. There's a lot of comeback about the death of Synchronised, that, well, he was the Gold Cup winner of the Cheltenham racecourse, so of course he could take on the Grand National. Why are you all making a big fuss of it? Just because the horse has done well in training the day before or whatever, and just because he's done well at Cheltenham, doesn't mean he can cope with the Grand National. And it doesn't mean that it's safe to take him in. I stand by my belief that if it is true that Synchronised was going to refuse that first jump, that he should have been pulled up there and then, and it might have spared his life. Yes, okay, according to Pete's, death was a freak accident. It could have happened anywhere, at any time to anyone. All it takes is one slip and your horse can break its leg. I fully understand that. But the National is a very dangerous place, and to be honest, I don't think many people really take on how serious and how dangerous it is. I have no doubts that the jockeys are trained to the best, and these horses are trained to the best. But you've got to take in the circumstance of the day, and you've got to understand that some of these horses are very young, and they just aren't ready for something like the Grand National. Why weren't any more alarm bells rung by the fact that just before the race Synchronised threw his rider off? Why did nobody think, hang on, this horse shouldn't really ride? And who made that call to say, yeah, put him in the race, it'll be fine? People say that the Grand National is a British thing, and as Brits, we should be proud and supporting this British event. People who don't usually watch horse racing do sort of watch the Grand National. People who don't usually bet do have a cheeky bet on the Grand National. And yeah, it is a British thing. I can see where that point is being made from. My own personal thing about the Grand National is that there is too much money involved. There is a lot of money that gets ploughed into the horses to get them to the top standard. There's a lot of money that goes into the jockeys to get them on the horses, to get them into the races, to get them trained, to get prepared for the Grand National. There's a lot of money that goes into the trainers and the instructors to get the horses there. That means that when the horse doesn't succeed, a lot of money is lost. But on the other side of the coin, when the horse does succeed, there is a lot of money to be had. It saddens me that it seems to be that money is more important than the well-being of these horses that race at the Grand National. I don't know what can be done to make the Grand National safer, and I don't know what can be done to make sure that no horse loses their lives on the course. For me, the one thing that needs to change is the importance of the race. Money needs to be less important and the horses need to take top priority. It's a scary thought that money seems to be the biggest drive of the Grand National, and the horses seem to come second best. It's a very, very sad and scary thought. What is your thought about the Grand National as an event as a whole, and what are your thoughts about what happened this year? Could those two deaths have been prevented? And until next time, keep calm and trot on, and I shall speak to you soon.